Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I have a little problem with the title Masterclass because I don't really feel to be a master. But I'll try to talk about my work. And the thing is important, I think, is to accept when you are editing, is to accept to be sometimes lost. That's why master is maybe complicated word, but I think the real master does know to be lost. So it's the first time I do it in English, so my friend here is able to help me if I don't find my words in English. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much to be so many people here. It's it's my first time here in Israel, and I have Yael, who welcomed me yesterday night at the hotel, and I told her it was really difficult for me to how do you say, orientate myself in geography. So that's another way of telling that maybe to be editor you have to accept to be lost. I think when you edit you have probably to know from where you go, but you don't have to know in advance where you arrive. I think it's really the main thing to understand. So when people ask me how I do, I really want to insist on the fact that you have to discover while you're doing things. But what is particular is also that you still have to know from where you live. And I wanted just to tell you a little funny detail, is that I wanted to see this place this morning to know from where I would go. But I didn't want to prepare too much this little conference. So I will just say a few words about how I began and how I understood more and more with the years my, how do you say, trajectory. And because when you begin, you don't know, even in your life, I think when you begin, you really don't know where you're going. And that's what interesting is when at the end, I don't say I'm at the end of my life, I hope, but I mean, at a certain point, you understand that things that you've been doing have sense that you didn't know when you were doing it. Well, so that's... So when I was invited to the, I don't know if you know this film festival in France, it's called the Filles de Marseille. It's an international film festival of mostly documentaries, but it's about cinema. It's not, because I don't like making differences between fiction, documentaries, and this. Jean-Pierre Rem, he's really in this same optic. He says there is cinema and live cinema. I mean cinema which is alive. And so when I was invited there in 2011, I think, to be member of the jury, he asked me, I mean, when you go to this festival, they send you some questions you have to answer before, to be in the catalog with a little interview. And so it was, how did you get to do editing, and what do you think of cinema, and many questions like this, where, you at the beginning you say, well, I have a headache. And then after you think, and you say, well, what did lead me to the cinema and to the editing? And then thinking is always interesting. And so I understood at that time that what led me to the cinema is the Chinese philosophy. And it's that really gave me the basis of the way I work. And why? It's for many reasons, and mostly because in the Taoism philosophy, you really the important thing is to let things come to you and not to force things and to get to a meaning. I mean, let the things come to you, and the meaning comes with the living. I mean, with the understanding, and that's one of the things. Also, and it's also very focused on suggestive meaning and not always explanations. And also in Chinese civilization, there is a very strong relation to history and to the way that history is told. It's not the history of the country is linked to the history of the history. And that's really very much linked to the way I think I like editing. Also with the Chinese civilization, it's the Chinese writing is how do you say even in French I don't find it's images that put together that create sense, because you know in what you call the ideograms you have images, and the whole images together become sense. So all this, all of a sudden, when I was thinking of answering those questions for the feed for Mr. Jean-Pierre Reb, I was more and more understanding. And I said, well, it was amazing as how much it was linked to this Chinese philosophy. And even now, I read again this famous very brilliant book of François Chang, which is called Vide et Plein, Emptiness and Fullness, about a Chinese painting. And in Chinese painting, he says, François Chang, is that painting in China is thinking in action. It's like if the painting is really linked to thinking and to life, and it's true that for the Chinese, the art and the art of living is really very, very much very close. So also another thing that was very striking for me in the Chinese art is the Chinese painters. They thought that it would be much more interesting to paint in black and white, I mean in black on white, than in colors, because they said that since the colors of real life are not possible to copy, the most interesting way of painting would be to paint in black on white, and then to create a space for the viewers to recreate some relationship to reality. So all this seems to be quite simple now to how it led me to editing, but I didn't really know it. It was like I wasn't very conscious of it, because at that when I began to edit, I'll just give you some details about my situation. So my situation. I was a video technician in audiovisual center. I didn't go to a cinema school, so it was like I did go to the technical cinema school after in night courses, but it's by doing things and by having a link to the technique that I could go to the practice. And another thing is that the audiovisual center where I was video technician was a center called Simone de Beauvoir, Centre Audiovisuel Simone de Beauvoir in Paris. So it was also a political engagement because it was linked to women's rights, and it was in '81 like when in France it became the socialist, I mean, what it used to be good news that it was the socialists. Now we were quite disappointed. But at that time with François Mitterrand, we were all very excited about him being elected after many years of right wing. And there was this political engagement also with the women, but also with all this country moving. So, that's sort of a little introduction. And what I wanted also to tell you is that I've been asked several times, I guess I'm very happy of that you all like very much Chantal Akerman's work. And I've been asked several times if Chantal Akerman's work was a political work. And I think it's obvious, it's evident that it's a political work in the large sense of this political word. It's political because it's beyond its subjects. It's not only about one thing, but it opens our minds to other situations. So it makes us think. And it's also political because it's not simple messages. Her films are creating also a space to think for us and for people who discover her films. So it's political in all those senses. It makes us think to our history, to ourselves, to our own position, and how do you say, face à la vie, in front, towards life, yeah, and towards life and towards history and historical tragedy also. So this is a very, quite strange way of, how do you say, I don't know if many people have seen the link between Chantal Akerman's work and the Taoism. I'm not sure there is one, but what I can say is that in Chantal Akerman's work, there is really a link between art and art of living. So, well, that's also some things I could put words on quite late. Well, I think it's quite difficult to show extracts of films when we speak of editing, because the editing is really is concerning the whole film, as you all know, I guess. And I don't want to show extracts of, this such and such sequence, so I edit it this way and you should edit this way. And I really don't want that, because I really think that some sequence can be edited in a different way according to the place it has in the film. And so there is not a right way and a wrong way to edit. I think the most important thing in editing it is to be like, as I said at the beginning, and know that you don't know, and to be to let the images come to you and that you discover while editing where the film is going. Doing that, the film during the process is still alive, and I think if you leave the film being alive during the process of creating it, so the film stays alive after, and you can all, each of us, have a different relationship to the film, understand it its own way, and it's like, as we say, a classical oeuvre is an oeuvre where that has been living through generations, centuries, and that has every time a different signification. So to come back to what I was saying about extracts of films, is that I think the best choice I thought the best choice would be to show you the beginning of a film, so that it's not just, this sequence is, and I thought that it would be great to see the beginning of one of Chantal's documentaries, South, so Sud, yeah, Sud, and so it's about 10 minutes. I don't know if you know the film, but we'll see. It's in English with French subtitles, and after we can either, I think, I don't think we have so much time, because it's 1 hour and a half, which is plenty, thank you. But it's true that I did a conference in Nyon, it was 3 hours, and I thought it was, we didn't really have time to say. So maybe after have seen this, maybe you want to ask me some things, I would be happy to answer, or I can also think of things I want to talk to you about, but I don't have, I thought a little bit about what I wanted to talk at the beginning, but I'm now really open to, and I have also thought about other extracts, but I don't know, it's how, according to how it goes and what you feel, and we can see others. But I suggest that we see the South 10 first minutes, if you agree. So.
It has changed a whole lot since my time. Back when, in my time of coming up at like these children here, we had to do old hard slaving work for the white people, because we didn't have any other choice, because we lived in their houses and they just took full control of us. I would say they took control of us because we lived in their houses. But once the black people woke up and went to doing stuff for themselves, they couldn't do us like they once had did us. They come to their senses. See, we would be sitting like this evening, we'd be sitting out in their houses, sitting out, talking or something. One may drive up in the yard and tell you to come on, go down here and go haul some hay. Sunday evening. But that's just the way it was. So today, it's not like that. They can't come up now and say, come on and go out here and get on this truck and go to the hay field. Because we're in our own. Back in 1966, over on the Jones place from where y'all were today at the church, on down the road from there, it was a wood, just was a settlement of black people lived over there. But they was on the white man's plantation. And they had to do what he said do. But when the civil rights movement came into the county, that made a whole big difference. They didn't come up and they didn't have the nerve to come up face to face and tell you you had to get out of their houses. They would go home and write you a letter and give you so many days to be gone, and would tell you on that letter, I want my house for hay. You is no longer needed. That's the way they did us. Water in wells, which is free. They didn't even want us to get water from their wells. We had to go down through the woods and ditches, what you call a spring, and drink water from the spring. That's the way white people did here in these parts of the country. But it's better now. People had to go to work before day, milking cows to try to survive, to have food for their children and their families. Before day in the morning, it was so cold outside, you didn't need to be out there. But we had that to do. But now we don't have that to do. We live in these houses now. They may not be much, but they are ours. And we won't walk out there, we don't walk outside and see a sign that says for sale, you got to go. So I feel good over it. I feels good.
Well, but I can just tell you before asking if you have some things to tell on your part. When Chantal was talking about this desire to make this film, she was talking about the silence in the south of the United States and how the silence was violent and how the nature, how the history was inscrit, was inscripted in the nature, in this silence, and in this heat, and it wasn't. It was really about feelings and about. It wasn't a documentary she wanted to make about slavery or about black people in the South. It was more about how how it was in the nature, and that's why I wanted to show you the beginning of this film, because you can see that the words of the woman who talks, she seems to like to be in resonance with the rest of the images. It's not like if images were illustrating her. Well, but maybe you want to ask me some more precise things, or I don't know if you know the film. It talks about the killing of a young black man who has been killed by a white supremacist, and he was tiré derrière la voiture, dragged behind the car for a few miles, and all his body was all over the road. But when Chantal, she knew about this, but when she went to the south of the United States, she didn't know that there would be just at that time in Jasper a ceremony about commemoration of this death, and it was really hazard that she came the right day of this commemoration. So in the film you have a scene in the church where there is this and there are people talking about this murder, but the film was not she didn't go to say I will I'll make a film about this, what happened. It was more vast. So it's that's what leads me to construct a film. It's the images and the desire of the filmmaker that transpirer, that you can feel sweating, and that you can feel and that you can find in the images, and that it's that leads the editing. It's not that they want that I hear a message and I look for the images to create a message. Are you sure you don't have some? Oh, good, thank you.
I just wanted to ask, perhaps, if you could elaborate a little bit more about the relationship with the director or different directors on working on a film from the editor's point of view as opposed to the director's point of view in the movie, and maybe a few words on how you approach a scene. What when you get, especially in documentaries, hours of footage and everything, and there's a certain story you want to tell, then how do you mentally deal with this and make a movie out of all of this?
Well, for the relationship between the filmmaker and the editor, I think it's it's a relationship which is really based on, it seems obvious, but it's important to say it, on confidence. But the confidence is really not, doesn't mean that you always agree. It only means that you go in the same direction. And I think what's very, very important concerning this relationship is that each person has its own place. Yeah, place. It's for example, I'm really focused on the two screens and the timeline and my notes, and I'm very organized. All the bins are very, very well organized. And after it's with this very precise technic organization, that I can forget this and be on and work with intuition. So that's for my part. And for the filmmaker, I think it's very important that the image, the monitor, is not close to the timeline and the editing stuff. It's on the right size, with the sound surrounding it, because often in editing rooms you have sound on the left and on the right of the timeline. I don't understand, because the timeline is not the film. I put always, when I come, I move and I put the sound at, you usually have two speakers, and I put it at each side of the monitor. And the filmmaker is really facing the images. And I don't want to explain or to put words on where I'm going when I try something, because if I put words, it's like if I explain too early, and so it stops the process. And also, when I was talking about different places of each of us, I want the filmmaker to discover something without having thought of it before. So if we say we do this and we do that, and inevitably you have in your head something that creates the thing and said, what is it good? Is it bad? What will it say? And that I want to escape from, so that you have the filmmaker has a real relationship with what's happening in the moment that it happens. Because I think when we are two like this, it's the best way to feel a kind of a freedom of creating. Because freedom is a difficult concept. It's a difficult thing, and when you're really alone, I mean, editing is really very linked to life, and you work with the inconscience, yeah, and life also is full of this. And what was I? Yeah, when you want to when you work alone and you want to try something, there is always some part of yourself, and I'm sure some young filmmakers will recognize some part of you saying, why are you doing that? Is it good? Is it bad? Why do you do this? What do you want to say? And all this, I think, if you work with somebody, you get rid of all this, and you just are in a real relationship with what's going on. And for me, it's the same thing. When I try, and I can't really explain what leads me when I try to put one image after another. Even with the beginning of South, we did this quite quickly, and I don't know how to tell you. It's just, it seems important to begin with a church, but not the church with the songs, just the church with the men working on, because because I don't know why, but after you understand that it's important to have church, but you don't say I begin with church because it's a film that has a culminant point with the church. It's just like, and then you have those men who are working on the street, and you can think they're prisoners. You can think of that, but you don't it's physical. It's all physical and mental. That's the process of creating and editing. It's the link between physical work and mental work. They have asked me in Mexico, unfortunately I can't go, but to do a master class at the end of the June. I might go next year, but they wanted to call it intuition and thoughts in editing, and I think it's really linked to my way of working. And so I was saying it's the same thing for me. So when I have, like, I would say more gestures. I mean, gestures, gestures, yes. More than ideas, because I don't know if it's ideas, but when I have this pulsion, or just to put one image after another, or one sound, or do a rupture or something, or the length also of the. I don't know what leads me there, but what I know is that I feel the strength and I feel the freedom, because I know that the filmmaker is not far, not close to me, not looking at me, not asking me what are you doing, but not far. I mean, it can be out for a few hours or a few days, but I know that when he will come back or she will come back, we will have a new discover. We will discover the try I made, and that we will understand if it has a meaning or not, if it's on the good direction or not, and. So that's the first part of your question. The second part is more difficult to say in a few words, because it depends on the film. It's true that usually for probably the major most films, I begin with the beginning. I really need to have a beginning, and when the beginning, the three first shots begin to be really existed. So it's like if the film has a voix, a road, yes. And after you build, and it's not like when the film begins to have a form, so you know it will kick out some whole parts, because the film accepts or not sequences. So you're not in front of a big choice where you are going to mentally be lost. You have to trust what's going on, and you trust it because you know it has a resonance with meanings and with oh yes, you feel it, and really until the end, you really end. Even sometimes afterwards in this last screening, maybe sometimes at the avant-première, you understand things. And even for this, that I know which will be screened here, we didn't talk too much with Chantal about what those images, I don't know if you've seen the film, but you will, but all those images of faces waiting and people in line, and what they would make us think of. We weren't ready to put words, and I don't think it was in '94, so maybe I forgot a little bit, but I don't think it was that we knew it and we didn't want to put words. I think it's just that we weren't ready to put words, and even to put words inside of us about those other images it was referring to. We were very concrete about what we were saying, we were talking about when we were editing. It was about the rhythm, the colors, the sound, it wasn't about the global signification. And Chantal put words on the film when we did the installation based on this film, which has been made the year after. And it was an installation, it is still an installation on 25 screens. The 24 first screens are 8 triptychs of 3 monitors, and the 25th screen is a screen where she talks about the film. But the 24th first screens we did in like 10 days, and the 25th screen it took us about, I don't know, I don't really remember, but like 10 weeks. And it's just one screen, but it's all of a sudden something had to be said, and it was very long. And when those words came, it was words referring to the film that was made one year before.
You can talk.
Maybe you can hear me like this.
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
I don't have to scream, I'm sorry.
I think maybe in editing or in making classical films, or sometimes when you look at the shots, there's something within the shots that can help you understand what's the beginning and what's the end of the shot. But in films like Sod or Des, it's like a completely different way of looking, I think, at shots. And maybe if you can say something about your perspective on watching shots and defining where is the beginning point and where is the end point, and how do you look at shots and the moving images?
Yeah, you're talking about more, when you say more classical films, it's you mean like fiction films where there's a beginning of an action or something?
I don't know, if there's an action, you know, a man walks in the screen, and when he enters it's the beginning, and when he exits it's the end. When something happens inside the shot that defines beginning and end. But I think in these films it's more abstract.
Yeah, but when the man walks across the image, it's not necessarily the beginning when he enters.
That's right.
No, because that's all the, that's the whole thing about really this. That's why we'll talk again about this notion of emptiness that is center of the Taoism, and that I think it's not an obsession about China, but it's really but really it's really because you think we all think that when something happens, it's when something happens, but most of the time something happens when nothing happens. I mean, and the fact of waiting if somebody will cross the screen or not is sometimes more important than the fact. So that's, I think it's a way of looking to, well, I still understand also your question. So it's true that when I really look at images from the moments where it begins to the moment, I mean, you know, to the whole shots, because it's true that since the filmmaker has sometimes worked with something that he doesn't know, it happens quite often that some important things are in the moments that you think would not be in the film. So, and after when you it's true, when I look at the images, we're always together with the filmmaker and we talk a little bit, not necessarily about only about the film, but in general also we meet, and I think the first impressions we have looking at the images are very important. So I try to remember really the first impressions, and then after you have stronger and less stronger images, very quickly you see that there are pieces which are strong and other pieces which are less strong, and that after you build with those difference of intensity, and in the beginning you don't ask yourself too much questions about the length because you can't know. So you just do it approximatively, and you try to make that things have an echo or a rupture or something when you go from one image to another, that something happens. You see it. Sometimes, sometimes because I'm going to the editing room in bicycle, and sometimes, you have things going through your head and say, oh, I should try this or that. And then you don't know if it's a good idea or not, because you're just on your bicycle. And then when you try, if you wait enough and you don't look right away after doing the thing, and you go, how do you say, if you take a little time before the film, if you go reverse, I mean, if you see the film from like 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before, you immediately see if something happens, if it's the right direction, and you feel it. And I had something, I forgot. Oh well, I'm sorry. Yeah, the thing I wanted to say is that it gives me the idea of talking about the editing, virtual editing compared to the traditional, as they say now. It's a question which you didn't ask. I know. It seems to be a not very interesting or quite a difficult question, and it's true. It's not really important for me what is its final cut, or if it's Avid, or if it's such and such. But the thing is that with 35 millimeters or even video at one time, it was South was editing in video, from video to video, and then we had 1 week in Avid at the end, but the film was so all this is not very important. But the only thing is that the virtual editing process is very, very quick. It's too quick. It's really too quick. So students, I mean, maybe not you, I don't know you, but often students tell me, we're lost. We don't know anymore if it's good or not. We don't have the distance enough now. And it's because they have an idea, test, have an idea, and they say the word, I'm going to test. And if you hear it, to test, it's not the good word for an artistic process. You don't test, you test a light or a computer, but you don't test a film. You test an extract. I have sent to Dana some tests, but it's tests, technical tests. You have to feel, you have to look, to watch, and to decide, but not test. And that's the word. I know that I might seem a little bit like focused on words, but words say also things about where we are and in what society we are. And it's not against those students, because I like them very much, but it's like if the words go reveal things, and so they go too fast, they explain too much, and they test, they try to test, and they're lost. And you really have, when you want to try something, you have to try it very calmly. And then, if you don't find, you go on another piece of the film and you work something else. Or you go and see again the material, the matière. I don't like the word matériel. I like the word matière in French. No, but it's because I compare often the editing to a sculpture. It's like you work with forms and with a matière. And it's not a material which you can, load and unload. It's live matière. And so, where was I? Oh. Sometimes I can recover. No, I don't remember. Where was I?
We're talking about your students. that they were testing.
Yeah, yeah. So you have to. Yeah, sometimes you can. Thank you. Sometimes you go on another part of the film, or you go and see again the rushes to feel the matière again, or you go and have a coffee, or you go have a cigarette if you smoke outside, or you. And that's why it's very good to smoke outside. But well, it's the only thing we didn't do with Chantal. We were smoking inside. That's the only thing that was sometimes a little bit difficult for me, especially in the morning. But when I arrived, she always said, "I will open all the windows. Wait." Well, so that's to say, it's really when you're editing, you really have to feel a certain calm, not be in a hurry. And be confident in the relationship with the filmmaker next to you, and also be confident in the time, what the time will tell you. As they say in Russia, time will tell. And and not be focused. I know it's not always easy, because sometimes the filmmakers were very tensed, but it's you have to. Don't worry, we'll see. Well, sometimes. But in general, it's. I was about to say sometimes maybe it's more difficult for young editors, because sometimes there is a crisis of confidence if you are too. Because I've met a young editor who told me that it was not so easy sometimes, because some filmmakers are very in tension, and I know it's a difficult way of difficult process, long process, but I really think that's the way to get to it, and not summarize the image to its action or its signification first, or apparent signification, because the image, when it's linked to other images or to sound or to some kind of a rhythm, associated, it reveals the sense, it reveals the signification, which is in the process of creating the film, in the mind of the filmmaker, but not always conscious. And that's the complication, the complicated, the extraordinary richesse of the process and of this art's meaning. And when you talk about this in painting or in music, nobody's surprised, or in poetry, nobody's surprised, because the signification of poetry, of music, of painting, you know that you have to go and get it, and you have to be open to it. But in cinema, sometimes you think that it has to be immediate, and the public has this reflex, and also sometimes in the process of editing, you have also this reflex. And I think it's really, that's why I was also linked to political. At the beginning I was talking about political aspect of Chantal's work, and I think that to create this art this way is also a way of being, a political way of being in our world. That means let us and make us think. Well, thank you. I don't know.
Hi Claire.
Hi.
My name is Asher. I'm a first-year student in film school. I wanted to ask you, from your point of view, Chantal's work was very unique. She had a very interesting style, and perhaps you can say, from your point of view as an editor, how do you relate to that style? And also, how was it to work with her?
How am I related to her style?
Yes. How do you relate to that style?
But I think what I said from the beginning is concerns that, because it's really. By the way, I'm not sure Chantal has one style. I think she has many styles. I think she's as Claude Guizard from the INA said the other day. Well, you don't know, it's a French producer from the INA, Institut National de l'Audiovisuel. He says she's a complete artist. and I think that's true. And she didn't make only documentaries or films, she made feature films, documentaries, installations, she wanted to make an opera. I mean, she made books also. So I don't think she has a style, but she has a way of creating, which is very linked to what I'm talking about from the beginnings, which is not tell people what to think, but tell them to think and create the space to construct a reflection. So that's really something which is very precious for me. This and she really never told I do this or do that or do this. She would, let's try, and she would say. And also I remember a story when she was preparing La Folie Almayer, and she had to film a sequence in a harbor, and the assistants asked her if she wanted a big harbor or a small harbor, and she said, I want a big harbor. And then after she had a phone call from another person who asked her, are you sure you want a big harbor? Because the small harbor maybe would be more nice. And she said, I remember she was very angry. She said, I said I want a big harbor, and I want a big harbor, and just don't ask me why. I want a big harbor, and I know why when I will have it. And that's I want to do with this. And that's really, I love telling this story because it's not an editing story, but it's really very linked to the process of editing, of we editing together. It's not, it's never, you make a step and then you understand why. And the thing is that you have to be ready to make the step. And also to work with something that you can think at the beginning or the first glimpse that is manque, missing, or lacks, yeah, something that's missing. And when you think something is missing, sometimes the film has to be constructed around this missing. It's not, you don't have to find something to hide that it's missing. It's part of the signification. And Chantal is really working with all this, so that's my really very strong relationship to her, and why we did work together so many years. I don't remember the second part of your question, but maybe it's, yeah.
It's the same.
Oh, thank you. I think there is this young man before.
I want to ask about the use of music in Chantal's films, because, as you said, she's a very silent filmmaker in certain times and in certain films, and sometimes the music is like a very takes a very big part of her films.
I said she's a silent.
No, there is silence in her films.
silent.
That's what I mean. And like you said, for Almayer Folie, it's like a film that starts with a very musical moment.
Mm.
And I can think of other films, and I wanted to know what was, and because of instinctual way of doing things with silence, how was the process of working with music for her and for you?
Well, each time I say it's a difficult question, but it's because it's different for each. Yeah. But for example, for I don't know if you've seen De l'autre côté. Yeah, and for example, this in this scene with in the ranch, it's like if it's for the people for those who haven't seen the film, it's a film about the frontier in between the United States and Mexico, and there is a scene with an American couple in a ranch, and they are quite in a few words, they're just quite violent about what's happening, and they say they want to take a rifle and shoot him. Okay, and in Chantal's films and also in films I like to work, it's films where people always have dignity. It's not, as we were talking about at lunch with some of you, it's not films where you have the black and the whites saying, black and white saying the bad and the good. It's always films where even the apparently bad people have a space and a dignity, like the sheriff in South or the sheriff in De l'autre côté. They say things that threaten you, that make you like this, but at the same time they are respected by the camera. It's not like if he's the bad guy and that's all. When you say he's the bad guy and that's all, so excuse me?
It's not judgmental.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to the music. Don't forget. When you say he's the bad guy and that's all, after you go out from the cinema room and you say, okay, he's the bad guy, and then I can have an ice cream. But if there is no bad guys, but just history or the world is complicated, the world is well, I don't know the word, but you know what it is. So when you go out, you say, well, you think more. So that's, and with this ranch guy, it was like, as we said with Chantal, it was trop, it was too much. He went too far. So at each time it was like, we can't put, it's too much. So people, I mean, it's, and when we did put the Chopin piano, and all of a sudden there is something, you take the distance, and you can even be a little bit moved by this couple, even if it's horrible what they say. And when you think of them, it takes you here, and you say, how come this, we can arrive at that point of wanting to shoot the neighbors that are dirty. Yeah. I mean, it's, and since the Chopin is making this, helps you to feel that and to take a distance. Well, that's an example which I think is very interesting. Yeah.
I'll try to re-ask it because maybe I wasn't clear in my, most probably. There is a rhythm, as you said, to Chantal's films, and it's also in the editing. And when you have to, and sometimes there's a certain musical moment. How do you make the certain change in the rhythm that will fit the music, or vice versa?
Oh, you mean concretely? Yeah. Well, that's yeah. You have to. It depends on. You mean when you try with the music, it makes you change a little bit the image editing. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. That's something that's easier with the virtual editing. That's true, because when it was for the Captive, we were still working in 35 millimeters, and all the tries we had to do, we had to go to the laboratoire and ask for the repiquage of the music on the magnetic. Oh, this is too complicated in English, but I guess you understand quite a little bit what I say. And then you try, and then you have all those noises of the machine, and well. But it's true that when you put music, it changes the rhythm. And sometimes when you put music, the first time you say, wow, it's very strong. And then the second time or the third time, it's like, it's too easy. It's too, and it still has to be rough and you know. And so yeah, it's allez, on va et on vient. It's a back and you go back and forth, and to the image and to the sound, and then. And when the music pushes you to change the image in a certain way, so at a certain point you understand it's not the right music. Yeah. But for the Folie Almayer, as you mentioned it, Chantal was quite open to the music, because she had, and the producer was not very happy about that, but she had found, she was looking on YouTube to find musics, and she was like next to me. We were editing La Folie Almayer at her apartment, and she was looking, was searching on YouTube for some music, and they said this, let's try this, and I didn't know how to take the music from YouTube, so we had this little Zoom, and I was recording, yeah, and then I said just wait a second, I'll lose it, and then she goes on, and I didn't know the version was chaotic, but the chaos is very important in editing too. For after to find the rights to pay, it's more complicated. And so she was really open to many kinds of music, and she didn't decide before it'll be this and that music.
She doesn't come with a chosen track for you to work with. She's just.
Yes, sometimes she has, but after it changes, yeah.
Like in the ending of that film, I'm not sure if there was a music in the last shot, and for a second that's I think a good thing, because there's that long shot in the end on the actor who's crying there or something like that.
Excuse me, I have the last shot of the captive. Oh yeah, no, there's no music. No. La Folie Anne Maillère, no, I was just...
It's a very long shot of him.
No music, no music. No, it's just the sound was very, very sharp work on the sound and the things behind, but no music. Yes.
I was very curious from something you said before, that you go through a categorizing process before you start editing, and it's very similar to language. So that we can talk, we have categories. I was wondering if you can just tell a bit more about your categories. How do you do it? Because I find myself in chaos, and it's very hard to work, and categorizing sometimes can be too harsh in the work. It can kill it.
Yeah, but you categorize, but it's like when you say that you have to have rules to be free, because if you have rules, so you can, even when you raise a kid, you have to give, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Oh, maybe I saw it, but no, it's true. It's the thing you want sometimes when you raise kids is to let them do what they want, because it's so nice to feel that they're happy and they do just what they want. But that's not what's better for them, because it's of this process of having rules and getting to freedom and with the rules and over the rules. And it's the same thing with it's maybe a strange comparison, but it's the same thing when it's not always categories of I don't. Sometimes it's just this day and that day, and or that character or this character, or sometimes it's winter, or it's inside shots or outside shots. It can be anything. It's just that I want. I don't want this left screen of the editing. The left screen of editing. I don't want it to be chaos. It has to be very well organized. So I have those little beans, and when I open the beans, they open all at exactly the same place. So when I don't want to see any beans anymore, I just click, and everybody goes home, and it's just empty, and I can. And if you want to, and it's just like little things, so that you can have a very simple way of getting to things, and so that you don't lose yourself by. It's like when you do the dishes, or when you go bicycle, you think, and sometimes, but you think because you don't have to really think of the bicycle or the dishes, because you know where you're going. It's sometimes dangerous when you're more with the bicycle than with the dishes. But it's like if you want to that your brain is free to go there and doesn't have to. It's like when you drive. You're not always asking yourself, where is this? How do I brake? Or how do I change the the gears, or how do I turn the you know, you can talk and drive. And for me, it's like the same thing, that to go to the bins, it has to be really automatic, almost automatic.
So you have a general system of categorizing?
No, it's not. It's just it's like a maniaquerie for me to that all the bins open at the same. But the bins, they can have various names, or sometimes there is no classification. But you know, when you get the rushes of a film, usually it's the bins, they open anywhere. It's not, they don't have always the same, you know, the same names, or the same, I mean, not the same columns, or maybe it's too technical what I'm talking about, but it's just like, to be simple, it's just to have that the practical aspect is very simple and very well organized. You're not lost in those things, so that you can be lost in the rest. You understand? Not really?
No, I understand. Sort of.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed. I'm not ready to be the one to choose.
So are you on the set with Chantal during the filming?
No, never.
The first time you see the rushes?
Yeah.
Editing?
Yeah, with every filmmaker, yes.
And you don't we're not working about shooting before together, or there's nothing like this?
No, it's sometimes no. Sometimes she talks to me about what she wants to do, but she doesn't really want to she doesn't like preparing too much, you know. So if I'm working with her and she's thinking of another film, she'll talk to me about the other film, but after the idea will change. And but we don't. Anyway, she was not. I don't know.
She doesn't do shooting. She did.
She what?
Shooting, like she doesn't prepare the shooting script.
Oh yes, she has to. It depends on what film. For the fiction film, she has to. Yes, but for the Foliane Maillère. There was a lot of improvisation. No, you're welcome. Yes.
It's a bit close to the question he asked, but it's a bit more specific about sound editing while editing. When do you start really going into details? Do you do it while you edit the shot itself, or let's say you get to finishing the film and then you start working with the sound editing?
No, that's very important for me. I mean, yes, that's very important for me. The sound editing is part of the editing, really, and it's after you have the sound is part of the matière. So to build it, to do the sculpture I was talking about, you really work with the sound. So you work in details with the sound. After the problem when you have to go, when you have to now with this new technical sound technique, you know, with 5.1 stereo, all this thing, you have to add some things, and that's a second process that we're working with a sound editor. But the sound, how do you say, conceptualization, creating of the soundtracks, it's part of the image because it's part of the rhythm. Mm-hmm. And so after it can be reworked, and usually I'm here also, and sometimes it makes also a little bit change the image. It can have also, like if for the music it can go back and forth, but it's part of the first gesture of editing, because otherwise it's not possible. For I don't know if you've seen No Home Movie, but the sound editing is really part of the editing. You know, all those winds and things at the end, and it's it creates the. You can't edit the image and say we'll put wind after, but what you can do after is to add some tracks and make it more strong, or and hear it in different conditions. But
yeah, I got it. But I'm asking. I know you were working on the sound editing while you're editing, and not waiting for the end of the film. But what I'm asking is it while you edit a sequence, or you wait till you and Chantal maybe finish the form or get to a very concrete form, and then start working on it?
No, you work when you edit, because it's it's sometimes the sound that guides you to cut or to for it. That's why I was mentioning those 3 last shots. I mean, not last, but at the end of the whole movie, there were those 3 shots in the desert, and there was this wind very hard, and all this is really built with the sound, and I couldn't do it after. I mean, it's but sometimes you feel something in the direct sound, and you want to push it a little more, so you add things, and it's really at the same time. It's that late? Oh, okay.
Hello, I wanted to know, I'm a screenwriter, and I wanted to know what is your relationship with the script when you read it, or if you have already an idea when you read the script of how the structure is going to be. Because, for example, for me, I find my relationship with editors is difficult because, for example, I spend a lot of work structuring, like the story. Structure is very important when you write. So then they shoot the film, and then when the editor just changes, like, for example, the structure. That has happened to me, and it changes, like, it feels for me like, as screenwriters, we take a lot of time, like, structuring. It takes, like, a lot of work. And when I got into the editing room, and I saw that they had changed, like, the whole structure of the film, it was like, what? But I also know that art and cinema especially is always in movement, and they don't have to be faithful to the script, of course. But I wanted to know, like, how you relate with the script, or your relationship is just directly with the director, and you never talk about the script.
No, I read the script. It's sure I read the script because it's part of the film. But after it's really, you don't have to take it bad, but I think it's there to be forgotten. Okay. But but really,
I think that's what you
but
editors think, so that's why I'm asking.
Really, but it's the same. When I wrote a little thing on Chantal's, there was an edition of her films of the 70s. S'appelle les années coffret des années 70, and I wrote. I said that Chantal is a filmmaker that knows lâcher, to let go.
Yeah,
and when she films, she forgets the script, and when she edits, she forgets the shooting, and then the film exists and goes And I think also sometimes when we mix, we can forget the editing. It's like if at each time you discover again, and I don't think it's forgetting. I don't think it's to be against, because I really think that the process of what has been written is completely part of the story of the film. And if you had it written the story differently, the film would be differently. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you do exactly what's written. And that's, I'm sorry to go again in China, but that's really linked to the thing that they are telling about the history of the history, how to tell the history. And it's like the process of writing history is almost as important for the history of a country as the history itself. Mm-hmm. Because you see things through a certain with a certain way of looking, and I really think that everything in the process of a film is important. But you don't have to be. It's not because you don't follow that you're not faithful. It's like in a love story.
Yeah, I thank you for your answer. I understand better your way of thinking. Doesn't mean I agree, but
thank you.
We could have one last one if there's someone who still has a question before we close for today.
Well, we can end with the love story. Well,
I'd like to answer.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.